Good evening. Go ahead and get started. We got about a couple minutes after 6 now. Welcome to the September work session for the Jackson County Board of Education. The beginning of this meeting was scheduled to address the millage rate and budget hearing. Is anyone prepared at this time right now to address that topic? What we'd like to do is kind of table that for about 15-20 minutes. There was some miscommunication in the paper, that announcement that we did at the locations. So Anna is at the board office in case anyone shows up, and she will bring them over here and we can address at that time with them if there's anyone, but if not, we will table that for a few minutes and discuss it then. Dr. Howard, I'll turn it over to you at this point.
Very good, and I thank everyone for being here. I take full responsibility for that. We were trying very hard to have the board meeting and the Parent Advisory Council here, and Ms. Dodge had already advertised for Jackson County's Board of Education. So she is there to make sure that we meet anyone who may come for the hearing. We have another hearing to be reminded at on Monday evening, and then we have our third and last hearing next Friday, which is Friday, September the 14th. Those are all advertised. I do want to remind you that our board meeting on Monday evening is scheduled for 6:30, as they always are, but our hearing will be first. We have had a request from West Jackson Middle School. They would like to flip-flop their meeting date for November, and that would allow them to finish most of the additions and renovations so that when the board visits, you'll be able to see the renovations complete. So we've asked that we move the board meeting on Monday night, just next door from West Jackson Middle School to Gum Springs. That means the November meeting will then be placed back at West Jackson Middle. So we will handle the hearing the same way. We'll make sure that anyone that comes to West Middle for any hearing information, we will make sure that they're directed next door, same site, same property, just different buildings. So thank you for allowing us to do that. I think that's going to be great. And I want to also welcome some guests that we have. Miss Beth Laughinghouse from Main Street Jefferson is here, and she's brought some guests with her. And she has something that she has shared with us a little bit. And I shared with her that this is the kind of presentation that she has is really something that our board needs to have information about. So she's going to join us at this time. So thank you so much, Miss Laughinghouse, for being here. And I'll let you introduce your team and what you have to share with us.
Sure. I don't know that you can see it back this far.
Okay.
You want it a little closer?
I think you can probably see it pretty good. Yeah, I can. Can y'all see it?
So I have with me tonight Susan Russell, who's our city arborist, and my guest always, my husband Greg. So I do want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm the Main Street Director for the City of Jefferson, and as I said, Susan is our city arborist. About 3 years ago, the City of Jefferson, working with the UGA Fanning Institute of Leadership and the Department of Community Affairs, developed a new master plan for our downtown. We surveyed citizens, volunteers, civic groups, of course elected officials, but overwhelmingly we had 1,000 responses, plus 1,000 plus responses to that. And overwhelmingly, the top 3 things that people wanted to see in downtown was parks and green spaces. So in December of 2017, the City of Jefferson bought an acre downtown, and that owner was very gracious, and they gifted us 10 more acres adjacent to that. What we bought at that point was this big piece of property that you see here. 76 Sycamore is what we're calling this project right now, because simply that is the address of the shop that faces Sycamore Street. Is supposed to be kind of an example of what you can do with downtown green spaces. It will include an amphitheater, walking trails that connect Curry Creek, and that's kind of hard to see, but this is the Curry Creek that connects to the Curry Creek Park in front of the Jefferson Civic Center. It will have a farmer's market area. It will have green space, playground, and parking, which we always need in downtown. Jefferson is very privileged to be a Tree City USA community, among other things, and that is we are a leader in tree conservation, both with the Georgia Forestry Commission and the Georgia Urban Forestry Commission. I'd like for Susan to give you a very brief information that you have in your green packet there about our tree council and about a project that we would like to explore with the Board of Education regarding the 15 acres that you own adjacent to our ATEC. Susan.
Okay. And I will say that I know nothing about technology, so going from slide to slide, just using this.
Troy, do you or mark of mine, just click and through. All you have to do is go to present. Thank you. Slideshow.
Okay, should I just tell you when I'm ready to click?
Thank you, Mark.
All right, I'm Susan Russell, and as Beth said, we would like to talk to you about this piece of property. I'd like to tell you a little bit about a project that the Tree Council has in mind. In doing so, I'd like to tell you just briefly about the Tree Council, tell you briefly about the Tree Bank, tell you how the Tree Bank works and what the project would involve. So hopefully you've heard about Jefferson and Jefferson's tree program. We've accomplished an awful lot. We are only the second city in the state of Georgia to become tree city, Firewise, as well as Bee City. Firewise is a community education program to help people protect their property in case of an uncontained outdoor fire. Bee City has to do with pollinators. We are the only city in the state so far to have been awarded the Community Forestry Friend badge. It was a very, very rigorous program that we had to go through to demonstrate that we had above average or over-the-top excellence in our urban forestry program, and we indeed have done that. We have kind of proven our success by getting all these grants. So it shows that we know what we're doing when it comes to managing a forest, dealing with our community's trees, and we are rewarded by being given the funds to continue. All right, Jefferson Treebank. The Tree Bank is not part of the general fund. It consists of fees that developers pay, donations from people, and that is earmarked for special projects. Now, you may recognize this gentleman, John Ward, who was our city manager. So the last sizable donation that we got to the Tree Bank were funds that John negotiated with GDOT that they would give to us to compensate us for the financial and environmental loss of canopy that we experienced when they made the four-way in front of the Civic Center. So we actually have an ordinance that covers our tree bank, and it's very specific. Those funds have to be used for planting, maintenance, community education, or environmental projects that trees play a major role in. So it doesn't have to go just toward tree planting and maintenance, it can go toward an environmental project where trees are key. This is not an operating budget. We have an operating budget for our tree program. So if somebody were to come to us and say, we think that a couple of maple trees down here on the corner would look really nice, that would not be a tree bank project. That would be operational. If somebody says there's a tree over here at City Park that needs to come down because it has some issues going on, that's operational budget. These are projects that are long-term, sustainable, that will make a difference in our community and will be around, hopefully, in perpetuity. So when we look at a project, what is the purpose of that? What are we trying to accomplish? Of the 4 criteria that the tree bank requires, what of those 4 does the project meet? And we would expect that it would meet more than just one of the 4. And this is very interesting. We can go into a project and we can put a dollar figure on the value to the community based on the trees. We could go out and hang a price tag on every one of these trees telling you how much in dollars the city is benefiting from carbon and sulfur sequestration, particulate matter and other pollutions that get into the waterways. How many gallons of water is that sucking up? It's becoming so sophisticated that it is starting to tell you how healthy your community is compared to communities that don't have trees and actually gives you a dollar figure. And it talks about retail and all of that. So iTree is free, it's easy to use, you can play with it, dealing with your own house and yard, see how much that hickory tree in the backyard is saving you with energy costs. So go online and play with it, it's easy. I don't know how they get all this information together, but I'm not technologically savvy, but I know what questions to answer and it gives me the information that I want. I don't have to understand how it works. So we're talking about an arboretum. Now, how many people here are familiar with William Bartram? He came through generally this area around the time of the Revolutionary War. And in your packet, there's some information about William Bartram. He was a naturalist, America's first naturalist. He looked at flora, fauna, Indians. He discovered some species that had never been seen in the United States before. He cataloged them, and because he was from Philadelphia, he took a lot of the seeds back to Benjamin Franklin's garden. This Franklinia tree here would be totally extinct if it had not been for Bartram, because that only grew in our area. And when cotton came in, cotton infected the soil with certain fungi, which to which the Franklinia tree succumbed. So any Franklinia tree that exists now, which is going to be in the non-cotton producing states, comes from that original batch of seeds that Bartram supplied. This is the Bargeman Trail, part of it. He went from Pennsylvania all over the southeast, Florida, whatever. But as you can see, he came pretty close. He followed the Broad River. So about 20 miles from here. And what I personally find exciting is, and piqued my interest, is that I ran a tree farm and nursery that was right here. Our family farms are right here. And I currently live at the intersection of 17 and 29 in Royston. So I'm particularly finding this to be a very exciting project. But what we can replicate here would be very similar to what people saw in the time of Bartram. So we are proposing an arboretum. There is no arboretum based upon William Bartram's travels anywhere that we can find. There are William Bartram trails every place that he went, but no specific arboretum. There is a place in Alabama that says they're an arboretum, but they're truly just a trail. So we are picturing sort of a comprehensive nature center, including all of these things. Some of the benefits, a lot of partnerships. I've spoken to Warnell and Dr. Kim Coder, if you are in the tree world at all, who is Professor Emeritus there, nationally known. He thinks it's a great idea. We already partner with 4-H and Cooperative Extension. Arbor Day Foundation is interested in it, and they're getting ready to launch a K-12 program similar to Tree City USA or Tree Campus USA. We could be one of their first guinea pigs if the school system decided that they wanted to participate in that. Wildlife groups, DNR, and just think about what a mecca this would be for scientists, researchers, historians, and other groupies who are tree-hugging folks. All right. There's also the economic development portion of this. Yes, we have quality of life. Yes, environmental impact. But with the economic development opportunities, you're talking about bringing in tourists. You're talking about people who are going to shop here, who are going to stay overnight here, and who are going to help support our community economically. A lot of funding out there, and we're pretty good at getting funding. A lot of grants. We have a lot of big industry coming to town who may want to be supporters or sponsors, a lot of private donors, a lot of private foundations. I've already spoken to the Appalachian Regional Commission. They think that this will be a very ARC-worthy project to look at investing in. A lot of conservancies out there, and we are not asking the school for any financial contribution. So as we look at this project, which we plan to do, we started to look for the ideal spot. Something that made sense, something that's connected to other green space. Near the area where we lost our canopy, which is Curry Creek. And we want to include the old growth forest because we've looked at aerials going back to the early 40s, and we've looked at our original native forests, and they are shrinking like crazy because of development. There's very little left out there, but there is old growth forest on this property that we can identify. Right? So this is the amphitheater that is proposed. You can see a bunch of green space over here. Amphitheater would be next to Arboretum if we were able to use that property to develop one. kind of a rendering of the amphitheater. Very green, very peaceful, really fits the theme of what Jefferson is trying to do. So that is why we think that this could be an ideal place to have this arboretum. Now, a few resources on Bargeman, if you're interested in looking him up. In your packet, there's also a list in the back of all of the participants on our board, on the Tree Council board. And you will see that we are already partnering with a huge, diverse cross-section of citizens and agencies already in this area. And there's also information about my background. You're welcome to call me at any time. My phone rings. It's like 24 hours a day, particularly when there's a bad storm. You know, what should I do? The branch is going to fall on my Mercedes, and it's like moving Mercedes. I got that 11:30 one night. But at this point, we have saying that on these projects, we have the brains and we have the brawn. I'm obviously the brawn, I'm the tree person, but when it comes to brains, I have to defer to this lady who understands how partnerships work, should this be something that you decide to do.
So as Susan told you, there's plenty of partnership opportunity here. It's certainly a project that we would be interested in talking with the BOE about. We are not got to have an answer tomorrow, but we'd like to start that discussion so that as we begin to plan the 76 Sycamore project, we kind of have an idea, are we working with 18 acres or are we working with 30 plus? Let me emphasize, we're not, again, asking the BOE for any money whatsoever. We also are not looking to clear cut that land. That's certainly not what you want to do as a tree council. We have not walked the property, so I don't want you to think we've done that. We have not. We've just obviously looked at aerial views of it. But certainly with Susan's expertise, we think there's definitely some timber there that is certainly worth saving, worth highlighting. Perhaps the only infrastructure that would go on that property would be a walking trail with some identification that would work with some of those partnerships like the Extension Service, FFA, 4-H. So we would love to have that opportunity to discuss this project with you further. Do you have any questions for me today? Thanks, Dr. Howard, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you, Susan. Thank you all for being here. Can you may have said this, and if I missed it, what is your approximate timeline? What are you, for this project? What's your,
To start it or to
just
finish
do you
it?
envision?
I would think this would be a development. In other words, we would start pieces of it now and then to go forward. I would think within the next 5 years, we would be finished with it all. That certainly is based on funding not only for the 76 Sycamore project, but for the Arboretum. We just have different funding sources that we can pull from. Obviously, I can't pay for an amphitheater with Treebank money. So we certainly have to work out the funding of that. As Susan mentioned to you, the GDOT donation that they made to us was $177,000. We are not looking to spend all that at one time. We are currently working on a plan for that. Whether we spend a little now and we work that out over the next 5 to 10 to 15 years, that's certainly something that we don't want to squander and we want to make the best use of that money. Certainly some of that money could be used on that project. So don't move the first tree or the first blade of grass probably within the next year, but after that it would be a phase in of everything that would be encompassed in that big, huge project.
You would start on any piece of property that we might use with having thorough inventory and assessment of those trees conducted by the gentleman who does that for the city of Jefferson. So that we can actually see what is there, what's the condition, what needs to be saved, what can go. But we're not only looking at trees, we're looking at native plants, whether they be flowers, turtles, whatever. Because remember that when Bargeman came through, he wasn't looking at just trees, he was looking at the flora, fauna, water.
And that piece of the project would probably be within this current year, maybe a little into 2019. We are about to start another inventory of our city trees within right-of-ways, and that project will start this year. So easily we could incorporate that inventory into this project. Thank you.
Just to be clear, you're asking basically for the property that's adjacent there, you're asking for us either to donate that or to go into an intergovernmental agreement with you, or
Yes.
or a
Yes. Yes.
reduction in sales? I just want to be clear.
I'm not gonna limit you or us to any one thing. I think every option that you just mentioned is certainly an option. And I think each of them have their benefits and their negatives. So I think to be able to sit down and talk about each one of them, what makes the best sense for you guys, knowing that we want to do this arboretum, what kind of time length are we looking at, and to let you know those details too. Too much detail obviously to give you in a public presentation, but certainly would like to have that conversation. So I think every option that you can think of is probably on the table right now.
Any questions regarding that? All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all again for coming. Christy, thank you. While they're gathering their things, we'll go ahead and proceed. You have a manual for the board agenda for just a minute. You already have it before you there. I wanted to let you know a little bit more about our community conversations. We had, as you know, and some of you were able to be there, and we appreciate that very much, on August the 23rd and August the 27th at East Jackson High School and Jackson County High School, respectively. We had a fair turnout. It's a very busy time of year. We have analyzed that data, and we've looked at it pretty frequently. We're kind of fascinated by the feedback that we've gotten. And just to remind you, we had teacher facilitators that were there to kind of facilitate the conversations. So they took notes about the conversation, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we also had pushed out the survey, and the survey was very closely aligned to the questions that we facilitated during the conversation. So we are asking you to embrace the concept of using our Parent Advisory Council to really work on processing all of this information, and we'll use that to create our community-based accountability system. So we're going to really get deep into the information with our Parent Advisory Council, because we feel like the last couple of years we've done a lot of great work with our Parent Advisory Council, but we're probably to a point with this group that would be helpful for them to really be able to be a part of the work so that they produce something that they have a vested partnership in. So we're going to share with them the feedback. We're going to go through a process with them about looking at the feedback that we've gotten from our community and ask for their partnership and assistance in developing a community-based accountability system. So I think you'll be fascinated by the data, but we're going to look at that data and feedback during our Parent Advisory Council meeting. So just wanted you to be aware of that. Do want to mention that GSBA December conference, the board needs to determine definitively whether or not that's something that you would like to attend. If you want to make note of it, December the 6th is the actual whole board training day if we participated in one of the best practices, and the actual conference itself is on the 7th and 8th. So the Wednesday the 6th is the actual, Thursday the 6th is the training day, and then 7th and 8th is the actual conference itself. So it's not quite open for registration yet, but we'd like to know who all is available. Our new board members, we did check with GSBA. You can earn credit for that. So if that's something that you would like to attend, you can certainly join us as well. And then you have in here a copy that, as you know, we submit this each fall to our the State Department as required by law. This board has an official local board training plan. And so we've already begun that work. Want to send a shout out, though he's not here, to Dr. Cook, who has facilitated one very good conversation. And I would like to speak to you again about scheduling the date. The only date that Dr. Cook was available, that everybody else was available, was on September the 24th. And so I think Ms. Wheeler, you may not have been available that day, so we need to look at another date. And
I might be able to change some things.
okay, so we'll touch base before we leave, but that is. He recommends 2 to 3 sessions with our board, and as he shared with you at our last meeting, that is the next step for us. So the board training plan, then, we'll need to complete together because we have a transitioning occurring, and so that's something that once Ms. Wheeler checks her notes and you determine about GSBA will then be one of our trainings if everyone is able to attend. And then I want to go ahead and make mention of you that I gave you a training plan last month. And we have Advanced Ed coming this year. Mr. Nicholson's going to share a little bit with us, but we have a training day in February that's on your calendar
I will schedule Dr. Cook to come that day if that is a day that you can confirm that you can all be there, and that will be preparation for advanced ed and will be a great opportunity for us to do some whole board training aligned to the school quality factors that Todd will talk about. So what I need back from you, honestly, is confirmation of your attendance to GSBA in December, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then February the 8th, if that's a date that you can commit to for us to have a whole board training with Dr. Cook that's in alignment with our plan for advanced ed. So that's somewhat of an update on our local board. Any questions or thoughts on that? As staff members, we are reminded that you basically are volunteers, and we thank you for supporting us. We ask a lot of you and a lot of your time, and so we appreciate you. we know how much this is a demand on you. So Ms. Dodge said that she's en route. No one was came to the central office, so I think in terms of the hearing, we'll wait, if it's okay with you, and review that during financial update when she gets here, because no one came and no one's here. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Mr. Nicholson, update us a little bit on leadership and performance.
Absolutely. So the first item, the innovative assessment pilot, is pretty exciting. Last year, the Senate passed a bill that allowed states to explore some flexibility in their assessments. We're talking about milestones and of course, end of grade. And that came from the U.S. Department of Education through Every Student Succeeds Act, saying that they want states to explore some flexibility. One of the things will come up later this evening in our conversations and our data about community-based feedback is that the least valued way of determining an intelligence from the feedback we've gotten so far is standardized tests. So our state has created a pilot program that Jackson County is going to take advantage of. And the wonderful thing about it is we don't have to do anything different than what we're already doing, because our innovative assessment flexibility application that we just submitted last Friday is based on using MAP. So we've already used MAP. And the nice thing about this is it doesn't change, if this is accepted and approved by the state, it doesn't change anything we do this year, and likely wouldn't change anything we do next year, because MAP will work specifically with school districts that have signed on for this. And this is, back up, Putnam County has already applied for this, and they have about 10 other school systems that were affiliates, and they were approved by the Department of Education. The Department of Education still has to go to the U.S. Department of Education and say, this is our state's assessment flexibility plan, and so there's two levels of approval. But between Clayton, Dalton, Floyd, Jackson, Jasper, Marietta, and Polk County are MAP school systems. They've all been using MAP. So our plan essentially that we propose to the state is that give us a chance to use MAP as our state assessment, as our state approved assessment system. The advantage behind that is instead of taking the milestones at the end of the year, where there's all this high anxiety, it's one time to take the test, and just a lot of pressure built around it. MAP is something that they take 3 times throughout the course of the year. If they master a standard in the fall, the way this is built out is you don't keep retesting over that standard. You should move on, check mark, you have done it. And then in the winter, if they've mastered 3rd grade numbers and operations, that winter, that will actually bump them up to some early 4th grade and figure out where they are. So it really, when we talk about personalized learning, MAP is the tool that we've been using, but the advantages to that is that you get that data within the actual administration of the assessment. Teachers can use it, the comfort and the flexibility that students have, so that they take it in the fall, they don't do great, they take it in the winter, they still don't do great, they have that chance in the spring. So we wanted you to know about that, because this will go to the State Department. It's actually supposed to be this month, and we'll have to basically be available to answer any questions about our application. And if approved, then we have an opportunity to kind of on the front end of exploring some additional flexibility in our state assessment, which would be 3rd through 8th grade initially, and it would be limited to math, ELA, and reading right now. In the application, we've built in some subsequent years where we would start looking into science, and we would also start looking into how that might impact some of the end-of-course tests in high school. The great thing about this is we haven't committed to anything, but we have put our name in the hat to say that we are really interested in this, and if we can actually explore some flexibility for our students and our teachers, I think that'd be a wonderful thing. But we wanted you to know about that too, because if approved, it will become a pretty big deal in terms of folks looking towards school systems that are exploring this flexibility. to kind of watch and wait and see how we deal with it. So very excited about that. Any questions?
When do you expect to hear, we just hear a definite answers?
The state board should be September.
Yeah.
That's why, I mean, they basically, at the board meetings, they essentially, we already submitted the application that was last Friday. So we would go and answer questions, and if that's approved, then what has to happen next is the U.S. Department of Education is opening another window. The last one was last April, and our state of Georgia did not apply for it last April, but they're opening another one in December with the U.S. Ed saying that roughly summer of 19, they would let states know if approved. So by the end of this school year, we should have jumped through both of those approval processes. So, but again, the way we wrote it is that we're already doing the work, so we weren't expecting to change anything this year. But that's nice because then next year is kind of the research and development year and implementation of the plan, really 2 academic years from now, with this being the first out of 3, if that makes sense.
Has the US DOE already approved other states to do this?
They have, now not specifically Matt. New Hampshire is one of the most common, but our state is doing it a little bit different. The way US Ed did this is that they said states need to apply with your plan. Our state, our legislators said, we're going to mirror the process that the federal government's doing, and they ask school systems. It can be school systems or cohorts. And so they're asking us to put together a plan, and then the state's plan is going to be the accumulation of these approved plans. So they're going to go and say, look, not only as a state we believe in this because we have legislation that supports it, but look at how, for instance, our plan would be about 100,000 students that would be impacted in those 7 school systems. And there are 4 other affiliate school systems on our plan that are kind of watching, that they're interested, but they're not ready to commit, so to speak. So that is it's kind of more of a grassroots. It's a little bit more of a different approach, but our philosophy is you don't get approved if you don't try.
Right.
So we'll keep you posted, but we're excited about the possibilities there. The other thing is, Amanda, if you don't mind pulling up, Dr. Howard mentioned that we do have advanced ed, and you will be a part of that. We've already started this process. There are 7 school quality or system quality factors, and those 7 system quality factors are at the root of what we have to reflect upon. And, well, read them out to you while she's pulling them up. They do actually impact they impact everything that we do, but it's nothing that we haven't seen before. In fact, the strategic plan that you developed 5 years ago is so spot on aligned with all this that we're in a phenomenally good place. And that plan, we don't just mention it in these meetings, we mention it in everything. It guides all of our work. And the nice thing about the advanced ed process now is they kind of assume that you're going to keep your accreditation, and it's really supposed to be an honest reflection of where are you. So we said we were going to do something 5 years ago, we haven't done it, and we explain where we are in the process, and our schools say, oh, we haven't done that, but here's all the other things we've done prior. That's okay. And whereas in the past it was a checklist of you had to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 and where you fell out. It was almost looking for places where the school system was not performing. But if you look at clear direction, I mean, that is our strategic plan. That's the first thing. That's, if you'll recall, that's what came out. That was the biggest piece of feedback 5 years ago, is that we needed a strategic plan. Healthy culture. We already do climate culture surveys. We have a whole wide range of data that we'll use to determine that. Community conversations are going to be carried throughout all of this. High expectations. I mean, that's our quality academic experiences. We're constantly reflecting, talking about those. The impact of instruction. Of course, you've got instructional practices, professional learning to support it, and then resource management. That's when we talk about those 5 goals, and that really gets into that 4th strategic plan goal. And then the efficacy of engagement, it's really what we're looking at that point is the stakeholders outside of our school system. So again, community-based conversations, surveys, and then our implementation capacity. We have to be able to do what we're saying that we're going to be able to do. Just so you know, this will involve additional surveys that are required, some inventories that students take. But we are exercising the greatest level of flexibility. So for instance, you can use the teacher keys effectiveness system instead of advanced ed system. We're not going to duplicate anything where we can already use what's in place. Years ago, the students used to take surveys on their teachers and their school. That was part of the teach, and that's kind of gone by the wayside. We will have to do that with advanced ed, but it's not about the teacher, it's more about their experiences. And, Dr. Howard and I spent some time the other day just really looking through these first two school quality factors. And what we've done for our schools is we've aligned all the survey data, all of the documents, everything that they need so that they can sit down and they don't have to actually dig into files someplace and pull something up. They can just immediately engage into the conversations. We're going to do that work as a district and the schools. Every month we're taking 2 school quality factors. And then when we get together in February, what we'd like to do is report out to you where the schools see they are, where we see we are as a district, and have some conversations about do we feel good about this? Do we have the data that really supports this? Because the most important thing is does the school story match with the system story, which I'm absolutely confident that it will. So it's just a different process, but it's not bad work because it's really causing us to pause and reflect upon that strategic plan, which I think people do. I'm not sure if you've actually accomplished. So, questions, thoughts, comments, concerns? The other item is really brief. Governor's Office of Student Achievement just requires that we have to have their report cards put on the school websites. This is public information. It's based, Troy, on 16, 17 data, is that right?
Yes.
So it's
2 years.
2 years old data. We just didn't, if all of a sudden somebody says, how come there's a report card on my school's website? We didn't choose to do that. We have to do that, and it's not up-to-date data. So just didn't want you, I mean, that sometimes that kind of thing bubbles up and you're not sure where that's coming from. That's data that we would have shared with you a couple years back. So again, just it's more of an FYI. And then I believe Kat is going to share our final item, which is the SSO initiative. This is in regard to some of our instructional software and our usage.
Hi, I have a question for y'all. How many passwords do you have? Just 2. We gotta talk about security later. You know how, I don't know if y'all remember LastPass, that saves passwords for you. I mean, it's definitely a life skill to remember passwords, but I would argue that maybe a second grader shouldn't have to remember 14 different passwords, right? And we are very much vetting and trying to make sure that all of our digital tools are easy to access. It doesn't take a lot of time for kids to log on. So that's what single sign-on is, where literally it's one login, one place, one username, one password for every student. That's it. That's our goal that we've been working on. So without it, for example, a student could have 14 different places to go, 14 different websites. That's crazy for kids. Even for a high schooler, well, let's just be honest, they'll probably say, oh, I don't know where to go, just to buy some time so they don't have to learn for that day. But if everything is very, very easy for students, instead of 10 to 15 minutes to log on average for a Chromebook even, you know, really fast, 2 to 5 minutes, especially even for a first grader, even for a kindergartner, a single sign-on is very empowering when it comes to our digital stuff. For faculty, we rolled out something called our portal. We just made a Google site that's an intranet that only people who are logged in as faculty can access. And it looks something like this. On our front page, when it pops up, actually has everything linked. All of our programs, everything we've recommended, everything we support, and it also notates whether it is single sign-on. And most of our single sign-on also auto rosters. As a former teacher, one of the things that was hardest for me whenever I had something like this was entering in all of my kids every single semester. I was a Spanish teacher, so I had 32 kids, 7 periods a day. Like it was crazy. This will automatically do it for you, and as kids come and go, it automatically does it for you. So thank you, Martha, for setting up the one roster for that. She's the one who brought in Clever, which is what we use for that, and set up one roster. She is a goddess of Infinite Campus. That's all I can say about that. And that's kind of what it looks like. So we mark whether it's a rostered, whether it's single sign-on. If it doesn't have either one of those, we provide professional learning about how to set those up. If we don't do it for them, the media specialists often help in setting up accounts for IXL, for example. Speaking of, so since pre-planning, that's how many individual page hits that front page has gotten on the portal. That's a lot considering how many faculty and staff we actually do have, and whether or not they log into the Chrome browser in order to get to that. And we just rolled out new student portals as well. It looks very similar, right? So the teachers see it. It looks just like the students look just like the faculty and staff. And these are actually public. So if you go to our website, we worked with Karen Bridgman about a month ago. to put these links on all of our front page websites. So granted, you could be a curious person, you would see our student portal for West Jackson Elementary, but you couldn't log in. You would have to have that single sign-on, and it's empowered via Google. So as long as you know your Google login, you're set for almost all of these tools. And we're heading toward we want a 100% goal. We want everything to be single sign-on. So that's what we use. We use something called Clever, which is a clever name. I like it. So 45 hours, that is Clever's estimate that's provided us. It provides us robust analytics, a time saved district-wide through the use of SSO, and that's only within since the start of school. And that's how many students have logged in since the first day using SSO. So that's not an app, that's not IXL. IXL is a math and ELA tool. That's not single sign-on. Everything that we've empowered via Clever, that's how many times students have logged on. That's incredible to me and kind of creepy when you consider how many students we have as well. And that's how much it costs us, by the way. It's free is good, right? But they get their funding from the companies who don't have the coding or don't have the people who can actually make that single sign-on possible for us. So the companies pay into there, and we get to use the tools for free. So we also get to see, we have an absolute versus a percentage of what they're using to sign on. So we are a Google district, so it's made me very happy to see 90% of people are using Google Chrome as their browser. And then and this is just students, by the way. Whether it's Safari, Internet Explorer, Edge, or other. And speaking of other, we can break it down to also see for student devices, whether they're using tablets or their phones, for example. There's some other included Samsungs, iPhones. So you're actually able, with these sites, you can download it as like a fake app onto your phone. People can access them on their phone as well. So this is very much a device agnostic. They can access this anywhere, anytime they want. And of course, well, that's not browser, but that's login method. So Google is just, you sign in, a little Google screen pops up, they sign in with their email and their password, done. Badges, however, are for our little ones, and we're also piloting it for at West Jackson Middle School within a self-contained classroom right now. They're called badges, and it's essentially that. It's a QR code and nothing more. I don't know if any of you have seen this or experienced this at all. I know you probably have. So I'm going to come over and bring you a Chromebook once it wants to open up. I'm going to have you log in with a badge and get the experience for yourself. And that's all it is, the QR code. So all of our kindergartners, first and second graders right now, all have this district-wide. Who's ready to see their face in the webcam? Right?
Bring it on.
All right. All right, so click the nice big blue next button for me. All right, I'll hold that up to the webcam. Oh, well. A little bit of a fail. This is because it's the kindergarten student. So more than likely the kindergarten student hasn't been authenticated just yet. But once it pops on, it actually does log up perfectly, and everything pops up, the portal pops up, and it's just like that. How fast was that, though?
Great.
I know, right? So later on, I'll come home.
All right.
For you to see this now. So that's what every kindergarten person, second grade, and potentially some of our SPED kids who have IEPs, baby assisted technology, kids who have trouble motor skills, writing, things that we can do with that helps. And that literally, they log into almost all of our tools just from that. And that's the short of it. We wanted you to know what was going on technologically. So thank you to Mike for helping with that, for Martha for birthing all this, and for Karen for getting this all public. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Trying to go with that.
Excellent. Well, I know, and I apologize. Just a reminder, and Mr. Johnson, I may lean on you just to, if you don't mind, our Parent Advisory Council is scheduled to begin at 7. So we've still got half of our agenda to cover, so we'll go quickly. But thank you very much. Dr. Blankenship, if you want to, thank you for being here, first of all. Glad you're here safely. And yeah, I know you are. I know you are. Just want to give us an enrollment update?
Yes, I will be very brief. You have the enrollment update, and what you'll see is that our enrollment has not changed significantly since the last update. And I would say that of those 36 students that you're seeing in addition this time, most of those came in right after the last update. So our enrollment has stayed pretty steady. And then the other item is the personnel list that we have. And it's very short compared to previous lists, but still maybe a little long for September. But if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. I'll be in the office all day tomorrow. Monday, if there's anything after the meeting today that you are curious about. induction process that we have. We have 2 pop-up professional learnings planned for September 10th, that's next Monday. One on the east side and one on the west side, around classroom management for our induction level teachers, and the induction leads at each school will also be inviting any other teachers that are interested in gaining more expertise in classroom management. So, and then we'll meet with our mentors and mentees on September 18th.
Great. Thank you very much. We've had a busy start. As you know, we are now in week 6. It's hard to believe. And our teachers had a great professional learning day on Tuesday. And so we were talking today about looking forward to how our families adjust to these intermittent breaks. I hope it's a very positive experience for them. So, Anna, thank you for making the trek. You and Aaron are here and let you share the great news. I will call attention, since we did not have anyone show up for our hearing, Anna did provide you with the proposed millage rate based on what I believe we understood you to support the recommendation of a slight rollback. And so you have that as your packet, and we'll have the hearing on Monday evening as well. But Anna, I'll turn it over to you.
If you want to start by looking at the SPOS, it was really, really great this month, one of the highest we've had in several years. Over $650,000. So for it to be collections on a summer month, that's pretty amazing. And if you look at all the comparisons, you can see that it's up over all measures, month over month, year over year, and well over the average. And we're getting closer and closer to the average being $600,000.
Peak bonds coming up.
That's right.
Too, so that usually is a good month.
Yeah, absolutely. And then our financials are right in line with where we are at this point in the year, and everything's moving right along. Our fund balance is still holding steady and above where comparing it to this point last year. So everything's looking really good.
No concern for having to have a tan
No,
year 2.
Second year in a row.
Second year in a row. Outstanding. Yes.
Yes, wonderful.
Tremendous celebration. Yes.
Yes. And I think the last thing that we have under finance is some discussion on the bond referendum.
So we, as you know, board, we brought to you Citigroup last month, and they shared with you what our recommendation is. We'd like to suggest, with your support, that we go ahead and ask our attorneys to work on a referendum to bring to our voters in March of 2019, a $50 million bond. As we shared with you, looking very closely and extremely conservatively, it would be little impact to the millage rate. And we are committed to watching the M&O side of our millage rate very carefully so that we hopefully can offset any potential increase. But this will allow us to proceed with the construction of a full-scale high school. Mr. Nicholson and several of us today visited a college and career academy event. I am very, very convinced that this is going to be positive for our community, and the fact that Jackson County High School, the repurposing of that facility will also afford us to have what we think is going to be great middle school space as well. So you have a feeder STEAM program, so it will serve 2 purposes, and the bond will allow us to build a full-scale high school. So if we have your blessing, we'd like to put an action item to proceed with bringing forth a bond referendum in March of 2019.
We should have a draft referendum, I would say, either October, November meeting for you to approve. Because we have to have it to the state voter registration at least 60 to 90 days before the.
All right. Thank you, Anna and Aaron. Anna and Aaron, everyone is still working hard on Smart Fusion, so everything they're doing is more complicated, but you're making it happen, and we thank you very much. All right. Facilities. Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Patton.
Well, I'll defer to Mr. Patton right now, who has spent a lot of time at West Middle, a lot of time he used to, and the efforts have been extremely successful. I was over there yesterday with you, and just it's encouraging to see some photos that he's going to show you just a moment about students and staff and how the building is assisting that process. So
we are starting to see the light. These are some pictures of the additions. They're coming along very good. That's the band room. Another one in the band room.
Cafeteria.
Which is brick as of today.
Oh,
Yeah.
Another
And another cafeteria. So we got a big week planned for October the 1st. Fire marshal's making, hopefully his last visit. And we'll be wrapping up most everything that week. Yeah. And we got some pictures of some students using the spaces. The flex space we were able to create by removing the lockers and doing some different things in the hallways. It's pretty exciting. Exciting to see how much they've enjoyed that. We had them somewhere.
Mike's going around. While Mr. Summers going around, I'll say that I was visiting Friday and Dr. Conway was in the hallway with or in the atrium area.
Yeah.
Kids were everywhere, just as engaged as they could be. There were robots going up and down the hallway. It was
It's
great.
really pretty awesome.
It was awesome.
It's a bit of a fight for the chairs. And
Yeah.
It is.
Who gets to
Everybody
read?
wants their own chair now.
That's it.
And this is one of the benches, which has been a really big hit. And that's in the atrium, that's
Yep.
Dr. Howard was talking about. We did some soft seating out there, which is like you have to take a ticket for it. This is the robotics lab. Some more of those. The 3D printers, which are always going, pretty cool. But as you can see, everybody's really enjoying that. And I think it was a step in the right direction.
Absolutely agree.
The atmosphere in the school is really cool right now.
So that's an exciting project, and again, as part of the financial aspects of the high school, the next item on your agenda is the capital outlay application approval. We have, of course, submitted that this year through the Georgia BOE. It's ready for your approval now, and it will gain us $11.5 million, give or take. So I'll have that. It is an action item for budget, which is just really to approve it and submit it. So, any questions on the capital outlay application? It includes both the new high school as well as East Middle School, which is scheduled to start within the same time frame, not until May of 2020. But there's $1 million+ on that one as well. So exciting work coming ahead. And then the last item, number 3, is really just a revision of your approval last December of the high school project on Skelton, of the construction manager for the entire project. And what we're asking you is just to revise that to reflect that we're only doing the site at this point, which we talked about last weekend a couple of times. So it's not a big change. It's only to say that that's where we're going, is we're working on the site alone at this point, not the whole project. So we felt like that was appropriate for the way.
Very good. And we have discussed that with the CM firm. So, always good.
Any questions on that?
Does that mean, will that have to be, since we've already approved for the whole package, do we have to rebid that again for the building part, or is it?
No, we've talked to our attorneys and covered essentially every potential possibility there. Just want to make all is well.
All right, well, quite a packed agenda. Thanks to everyone. I know some of you did a lot of preparation. Everyone did a lot of preparation, and thank you very much for all of your work, and hope that the board feels informed and look forward to partnering with our parents next door. So that's all the items we have. Mr. Chairman?
Good. We'll turn to the current budget.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much.